The silver ship moved through space like a whisper. It had no sharp edges or loud engines. The Zephyrian scout vessel Whisper of Stars drifted toward the small blue planet that the locals called Earth. Scout Commander Vexhai stood in the control room. Their tall body was covered in pale, see-through skin. 4 eyes moved independently as they studied the screens before them. This was their first time seeing humans up close. "Commander, we are getting signals from the human ships," said Navigator Kethmer. His voice had a musical quality that all Zephyrians shared. "They want to meet us at their space station." Vexhai nodded slowly. They had been traveling for many cycles to reach this system. The Zephyrian Confederation had received strange signals from this corner of the galaxy. The signals seemed to come from a new species that had just learned to travel between stars. "What do their ships look like?" Vexhai asked. "Simple. Basic. Metal construction. Their largest vessel appears to be called the Liberty Bell. It has weapons, but they are old designs. Nothing that could hurt us." Vexhai felt curious about these humans. The reports said they were young as a space-traveling species. Only 50 years ago, they had been stuck on their home planet. Now they claimed to have ships that could cross. "The stars. Send them a message," Vexhai ordered. "Tell them we accept their invitation to meet." Hours later, the Whisper of Stars approached the human space station. The station was called New Horizon, and it looked like a metal wheel spinning slowly in space. It was not beautiful like Zephyrian buildings, but it seemed to work well. The human ship Liberty Bell waited nearby. It was long and gray, with clear windows along its sides. Vexhai could see small figures moving inside. These were the humans they had come so far to meet. "Commander, the humans are asking permission to come aboard," Kethmer recorded. "Let them come," Vexhai said. "But watch them carefully. We know so little about their kind." The airlock opened with a soft hiss. 3 humans stepped inside the Zephyrian ship. Vexhai had seen pictures of humans before, but seeing them in person was different. They were shorter than Zephyrians, with thick skin and only 2 eyes each. Their hair came in different colors. The first human was a man with brown hair and calm eyes. He wore a dark blue uniform with small metal pieces on his chest. "I am Captain Jake Morrison," he said in a steady voice. "Welcome to our solar system." The second human was a woman with blonde hair pulled back neatly. She wore a simple gray suit. "I am Lisa Carter. I speak for Earth's government in matters." Like this, the third human was an older man with white hair and kind eyes. He carried a small bag with him. "Dr. Paul Richardson. I study different kinds of life in the universe." Vexhai studied them all carefully. Something felt strange about these humans, but they could not say what it was. "I am Scout Commander Vexhai," they said through their translation device. "We come from the Zephyrian Confederation. We received your signals and wanted to meet you." "Captain," Morrison smiled, "we are honored by your visit. We have much to learn from older civilizations like yours." The humans were invited to tour the Whisper of Stars. As they walked through the ship, Dr. Richardson asked many questions about Zephyrian technology. Lisa Carter asked about their government and laws. Captain Morrison seemed most interested in their ships and how they traveled between stars. "Your ship is amazing," Captain Morrison said as they stood in the engine room. "Our technology is so simple compared to this." Vexhai noticed something odd in the captain's voice. The words sounded humble, but his eyes showed no surprise. It was as if he already knew what he would see. "How long has your species been traveling in space?" Vexhai asked. "Not long," Lisa Carter answered quickly. "We built our first ship that could leave our solar system about 20 years ago." "We are still learning," Dr. Richardson nodded. "Yes, we are very new to all this. We hope to learn much from species like yours." Again, Vex-High felt that something was not quite right. The humans spoke like beginners, but they acted like people who had seen such things before. The tour continued to the meeting room, where Zephorian food was served. The humans ate carefully and politely. They asked about Zephorian culture and history. Their questions were good ones, showing they had studied before coming. "Tell us about your confederation," Captain Morrison said. "How many species belong to it?" 12 species work together in peace, Vex-High explained. "We share knowledge and help each other. We invite new species to join when they are ready." "That sounds wonderful," Lisa Carter said. "Earth would be interested in learning more about such cooperation." As the meeting went on, Vex-High watched the humans more closely. They sat straight and alert, like soldiers ready for action. But their words were always peaceful and curious. Dr. Richardson's questions about Zephorian science were very detailed for someone from such a young civilization. "How do you choose which species to invite?" Captain Morrison asked. "We watch them." "For a while," Vex-High said. "We see how they treat others and how they solve problems. Only peaceful species are invited." The humans nodded and smiled. They said all the right things about peace and cooperation. But Vex-High noticed how Captain Morrison's hand never moved far from his belt, where humans often kept weapons. Lisa Carter's eyes constantly scanned the room, as if looking for dangers or exits. When the formal meeting ended, the humans were invited to stay on the space station for several days. They would learn more about each other's cultures and ways of life. "Thank you for your kindness," Dr. Richardson said as they prepared to leave the ship. "We look forward to learning from you." As the humans walked back to their own ship, Vex-High watched them through the window. They moved together like a team that had worked together for many years. Their steps were confident and sure. "Commander," Kethmer said quietly, "did you notice anything strange about them?" Vex-High was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," they finally said. "They claim to be new to space travel, but they act like veterans. They say they are simple, but their questions are not simple at all." "What do you think it means?" "I think," Vex-High said slowly, "that these humans are not telling us everything about themselves." That night, as the Whisper of Stars docked with the human space station, Vex-High began to write notes in their private journal. Something about this first contact felt different from all the others they had experienced. The humans were hiding something. But what? The next morning, Amanda Ross waited in the space station's main meeting room. She had been chosen to show the Zephorians around Earth. Amanda was young, with red hair and bright green eyes. She wore a simple blue dress and carried a small computer pad. "Good morning, Commander Vex-High," Amanda said with a warm smile. "I hope you slept well." Vex-High had not slept much. They had spent most of the night thinking about the strange feelings from yesterday. "Thank you. We are ready to see your world." "Wonderful. We have prepared a special tour for you. You will see our greatest cities and meet our people." The trip to Earth's surface was smooth. The human shuttle was basic but clean. Vex-High sat with Kethmer and 2 other Zephorians as they descended through the atmosphere. "Look," Amanda pointed out the window. "That is New York City, one of our largest cities." Vex-High looked down at the city below. It was impressive, with tall buildings reaching toward the sky. But something seemed wrong. The buildings looked old, as if they had been built many years ago. For a species that was supposed to be new to advanced technology, the city looked very developed. "How long did it take to build such a city?" Vex-High asked. "Oh, many decades," Amanda said quickly. "Humans are very good at building things, even with simple tools." They landed at a small airport outside the city. A man in a gray suit was waiting for them. He had dark hair and serious eyes. "This is Tony Blake," Amanda said. "He helps keep important visitors safe." Tony Blake stepped forward and shook hands with each Zephorian. His grip was firm and confident. "Welcome to Earth," he said. "I will be with you during your visit to make sure everything goes smoothly." Vex High studied Tony Blake carefully. The man stood like a soldier, straight and alert. His eyes constantly scanned the area around them. For someone whose job was just to help visitors, he seemed very watchful. The tour began at a large museum in the city center. Amanda showed them displays about human history and culture. The Zephyrians saw pictures of humans from long ago, when they used simple tools and lived in small groups. "This is how we lived just a few hundred years ago," Amanda explained. "We have learned and grown very quickly." Dr. Richardson had stayed on Earth to meet with Zephyrian scientists. He joined them at the museum, along with a woman named Mary Johnson. She was a teacher at one of her schools. "Mary will show you how we educate our children," Dr. Richardson said. "Education is very important to us." At the school, Vex High watched human children in their classes. The children were young, between 6 and 12 years old. They sat at desks and listened to their teacher explain mathematics. "Now, who can solve this problem?" Mary Johnson asked, writing numbers on a board. A small girl with dark hair raised her hand. "The answer is 42, she said. "Very good. Emma, and can you tell us how you found that answer?" Emma stood up and explained her thinking. Her explanation was clear and showed deep understanding of the problem. Vex High was impressed. This child's mind worked very quickly. "How long have these children been studying mathematics?" Vex High asked Mary Johnson. "Oh, just a few years," Mary replied. Human children learn fast when they are interested in something. But Vex High noticed something strange. The problems on the board were not simple. They required thinking that should take years to develop. Yet these children solved them as if they were easy. After the school visit, the group went to what Amanda called our most advanced research center. It was a large building with white walls and many windows. Signs outside said Earth Science Institute. Inside, scientists in white coats worked at computers and studied samples through microscopes. Dr. Richardson proudly showed them around. "This is where we study the universe," he said. "We try to understand how stars form and how life begins." The equipment looked basic compared to Zephyrian technology. The computers were simple, and the microscopes were old designs. But Vex High noticed something odd. Some of the scientists' work was very advanced. They were studying things that should require much better equipment. How do you study distant stars with such simple telescopes? Kethmer asked. "We are very creative," Dr. Richardson answered. "We find ways to make our basic tools work better." Tony Blake stayed close to the group during the entire tour. Whenever Vex High tried to look into side rooms or ask about certain areas, Tony would gently guide them away. "That area is under construction," Tony would say. Or, "Those rooms are being repaired right now." It happened too many times to be coincidence. Vex High began to suspect that the humans were keeping them away from certain places on purpose. That evening, they visited a small town outside the city. The people there lived simple lives, farming and making things with their hands. They welcomed the Zephyrians with a big dinner and many questions. "We have never met anyone from another world," said an old farmer named Pete Collins. "Do you really travel between the stars?" "Yes," Vex High said. "We have been traveling in space for many generations." "That must be wonderful," said a young woman named Susan Clark. "We humans have only just begun to explore beyond our own planet." But as the evening went on, Vex High heard things that did not match what they had been told. Pete Collins mentioned the boys up on the moon base, as if humans had been there for a long time. Susan Clark talked about her cousin who worked on the Mars project. When Vex High asked about these things, the humans quickly changed the subject. Amanda Ross laughed and said, "Oh, Pete likes to tell stories. We have some small research stations, but nothing important." Yet Vex High had clearly heard these people speak as if space travel was normal for them, as if they had been doing it for much longer than 20 years. The next day, they visited a university where human students learned about science and technology. The students were young adults, eager to learn and full of questions about the Zephyrians. "What is it like to travel faster than light?" asked a student named Dan Miller. "How do you communicate across such long distances?" asked another student named Beth Morgan. Their questions were intelligent and showed they understood complex ideas about space and physics. But according to what the humans claimed, their species had only recently learned about such things. "Your students know a lot about space travel," Vex High observed to one of the professors. "They are very curious," the professor replied. "They study hard and learn quickly." But Vex High noticed that the students' questions were not the questions of beginners. They were the questions of people who already knew the basics and wanted to learn more advanced concepts. On the third day, they visited what the humans called a space training center. Here, humans learned how to work in space and on other planets. The trainees practiced walking in heavy suits and working with complex equipment. "This is where we prepare humans for space missions," explained the center's director, a woman named Helen Baker. "It takes many months of training." Vex High watched the trainees work. They moved with confidence and skill. Their movements were smooth and practiced, as if they had been doing this work for years. "How long have these people been training?" Vex High asked. "Most of them started just a few months ago," Helen Baker said. "Humans adapt to new situations very quickly." But Vex High could see that these people were not beginners. They worked together like experienced teams. They knew their equipment too well for people who had only been training for months. That evening, back on the space station, Vex High sat alone in their quarters. They reviewed their notes from the 3 days on Earth. Nothing added up properly. Humans claimed to be new to space travel, but their children solved complex problems. They said their technology was simple, but their scientists studied advanced concepts. They appeared to have small research stations, but their people spoke as if space travel was common. Most troubling of all, everywhere they went, Tony Blake and others, like him, kept them away from certain areas. The humans were definitely hiding something. Vex High opened their private communication device and began to record a message. Personal log, Day 3 of contact with humans. Initial observations suggest the species is not as simple as they appear. Inconsistencies in their statements and behavior indicate possible deception. Recommend continued observation and investigation. As Vex High prepared for sleep, they wondered what the humans were really hiding. Tomorrow, they would need to be more careful in their observations. Something was definitely not right about this first contact. Vex High could not sleep. The strange feelings about the humans had grown stronger each day. They decided to use their advanced Zephyrian technology to investigate secretly. While the human space station was quiet during its night cycle, Vex High activated their personal scanning device. The device was small and hidden in their clothing. It could detect energy signatures, communication signals, and even listen to conversations through walls. The first thing Vex High discovered was that the human space station was much more complex than it appeared. Hidden behind simple-looking walls were advanced computer systems. The station had powerful sensors that could detect ships far away in space. "This is not the basic station they showed us," Vex High whispered to themselves. The scanning device picked up communication signals going back and forth between the station and other locations. Most of the signals were in code, but Vex High's translator could understand some of them. "Moon Base Alpha reporting all clear," said one voice. "Mars. Colony 2 requesting supply drop," said another. Deep Space Patrol returning to dock, said a third. Vex High felt their four eyes widen with shock. The humans had bases on their moon and Mars. They had patrol ships in deep space. This was not a species that had only been traveling in space. For 20 years, moving quietly through the station's corridors, Vex High used their device to listen to conversations. Most humans were sleeping, but some were still working in control rooms in one room. Vex High heard two humans talking. One was a man with a deep voice. The other was a woman who spoke quickly. General White wants to know how much longer we need. To keep this up, the man said. Tell the General that Protocol 7 is working perfectly, the woman replied. The aliens suspect nothing. Are you sure? Commander Vex High has been asking a lot of questions. Dr. Carter says that's normal. All new species are curious. As long as we keep them away from the real facilities, we'll be fine. Vex High's hearts began beating faster. Protocol 7? Real facilities? The humans were definitely hiding something. Important. The next morning, Vex High acted normal during breakfast with the humans. Amanda Ross was cheerful as always, talking about the day's plans. Today we will visit our space manufacturing facility, she said. It's where we build parts for our ships. The facility was located on the other side of the space station. As they walked there, Vex High secretly recorded everything with their hidden device. The manufacturing area looked basic, with humans working at simple machines. But Vex High's scanner detected much more advanced equipment hidden behind false walls. The real manufacturing was happening in areas the visitors could not see. This is where we make basic components, explained the facility manager, a man named Steve Walsh. Nothing too complex, just simple parts. But Vex High's device showed energy signatures that indicated very advanced manufacturing. The humans were building something much more sophisticated than simple parts. During lunch, Vex High excused themselves to use the bathroom. Instead, they slipped into a maintenance corridor that their scanner had detected. The corridor was dimly lit and seemed to lead to restricted areas. Following the corridor, Vex High found themselves looking through a small window into a large room. What they saw made them gasp. The room was filled with humans working at advanced computer stations. Giant screens showed star maps with hundreds of marked locations. Ship designs covered the walls, and the designs were far more advanced than anything the humans had shown them. A woman with short black hair stood at the center of the room. She wore a military uniform and spoke with authority. Beth Morgan, what's the status on the alien ship's scanning attempts? She asked. They've been probing our systems, Commander, Beth replied. But our shielding is holding. They can't see through to the real operations. Good. And the patrol fleet? All ships are maintaining position outside sensor range. If these aliens prove hostile, we can respond within minutes. Vex High felt cold fear run through their body. The humans had a hidden fleet of ships. They were watching and ready to fight if necessary. What about the Mars facilities? The commander asked. Construction is ahead of schedule, and new defensive platforms should be online next month. Excellent. Continue monitoring the aliens, but don't let them know we're watching. Vex High quickly retreated from the window and made their way back to the main areas. Their minds raced with what they had discovered. The humans were not the simple, peaceful species they pretended to be. That afternoon, Amanda Ross took them to visit what she called our communication center. It was supposed to be where humans talked to their few ships in space. The center looked small and basic, with only a few people working at old-fashioned radio equipment. But Vex High's scanner detected massive communication systems hidden below the floor. This is where we talk to our ships, Amanda explained. We can reach as far as the edge of our solar system. But Vex High's device showed that the humans were receiving signals from much farther away. signals that came from other star systems. How often do you communicate with your ships? Vex High asked. Oh, just once or twice a day, Amanda replied. We don't have many ships out there. Yet Vex High's scanner was picking up dozens of different signals. The humans were in constant communication with many ships and bases. That evening, there was a dinner party for the Zephyrian visitors. Many important humans attended, including Captain Morrison, Dr. Richardson, and others they had met. A man named Bill Hayes introduced himself as a government official. He was older, with gray hair and kind eyes. We are so pleased to welcome you to Earth, he said. This is a historic moment for our species. During the dinner, Vex High listened carefully to all the conversations. They used their translator to pick up quiet words spoken between humans. The real fleet is holding position. Vex High heard one man whisper to another. All weapon systems are offline as ordered, a woman said quietly. The lunar bases are maintaining. Radio silence, said another voice. Vex High pretended to eat while recording everything. The humans had weapon systems. They had lunar bases. They had a real fleet of ships. A man named Pete Collins, who worked in maintenance, accidentally said, too much when he had some wine. I never thought I'd see aliens visiting the fake facilities, he said with a laugh. Pete, Amanda quickly interrupted. You're talking too much. Sorry, Pete said, but the damage was done. Later, Vex High heard Dr. Nina Foster talking to another scientist. How long do we have to keep the weapons offline? She asked. Until we know their intentions, came the reply. The last thing we want is to seem threatening. As the party continued, Vex High began to understand the truth. The humans were not hiding aggressive intentions. They were hiding their defensive capabilities. They had been watching the Zephyrians long before first contact. They had prepared for this meeting. They had hidden their real technology and military strength to appear weak and non-threatening. But why? What were they afraid of? Late that night, Vex High used their device to scan deeper into the station's computer systems. What they found was a detailed file about the Zephyrian Confederation. The humans knew everything about the 12 species in the Confederation. They knew about Zephyrian technology, military capabilities, and political structure. They had been studying the Confederation for years. The file contained analysis of every first contact the Zephyrians had ever made. It studied which species had been invited to join the Confederation and which had been rejected or ignored. The humans had done their homework. They knew exactly what the Zephyrians were looking for in a new species. Incredible, Vex High whispered. They have been preparing for this contact for years. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. In the deepest part of the computer system, Vex High found files marked contingency plans. The humans had detailed plans for what to do if first contact went wrong. They had strategies for defense, for hiding their colonies, for protecting their species. They had thought of everything. One file made Vex High's blood run cold. It was titled, If We Must Fight. The document outlined human military capabilities that far exceeded anything the Zephyrians had imagined. Hidden ships, secret weapons, defensive systems that could protect entire planets. The humans were not the weak, young species they pretended to be. They were a careful, intelligent species that had learned to hide their true strength. As Vex High finished reading the files, they realized they faced a difficult choice. Should they report what they had learned to the Zephyrian Confederation? Should they reveal that the humans were deceptive? Or should they try to understand why the humans felt the need to hide? One thing was certain. This first contact was not what anyone had expected it to be. Vex High spent the next day acting normally while their mind raced with questions. They needed to learn more about why the humans were hiding so much. The answer came when they decided to investigate the humans' personal histories, using their Advanced Scanning Device. HFY accessed the personal files of the humans they had met. What they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about these people. Captain Jake Morrison was not just a ship captain. His files showed he had fought in something called the Solar War 15 years ago. He had been a fighter pilot who had shot down enemy ships and saved human colonies from attack. Dr. Paul Richardson was not just a scientist studying life in the universe. He had been a military researcher who developed new types of weapons and defensive systems. His work had helped humans survive conflicts that they had never mentioned to the Zephyrians. Amanda Ross, the cheerful tour guide, had been trained in intelligence gathering and psychological operations. She knew how to make people see only what she wanted them to see. Even Tony Blake, the security officer, had a military background. He had served in something called Special Operations and had been trained to fight in space. Every human they had met had secrets. Every human had experience with war and conflict, but the most shocking discovery was about the conflicts themselves. The humans had not been fighting wars against other humans. They had been fighting wars against other alien species. HFY found files about the Krell invasion and the Vorthen incident. These were not names they recognized, but the files made it clear that humans had encountered hostile alien species before. This changes everything, HFY whispered as they read. Through the files, the humans had not lied about being new to space travel. They had lied about being new to alien contact. They had been meeting other species for decades, and not all of those meetings had been peaceful. According to the files, the first aliens to contact humanity had been the Krell. They had seemed friendly at first, but they had been studying human defenses. When they thought humans were weak enough, they had attacked. The war had lasted 3 years. Humans had lost millions of people and several colonies, but they had learned to fight back. They had developed new weapons and tactics. In the end, they had won. The second contact had been with the Vorthen. This species had been more subtle. They had offered trade and friendship while secretly poisoning human food supplies and stealing human technology. When humans discovered the betrayal, another war had begun. This time, humans had been ready. They had won quickly and decisively. After that, humans had decided to be more careful with alien contact. They had created Protocol 7, a system for dealing with new alien species while hiding their true capabilities. HFY realized that everything they had seen was part of this protocol. The humans were not trying to deceive the Zephyrians for evil purposes. They were trying to protect themselves from another potential betrayal. The next morning, HFY decided to do something dangerous. They would try to get into the restricted areas of the space station to see what the humans were really hiding. Using their scanning device to avoid security cameras, HFY slipped into the maintenance tunnels. The tunnels led to parts of the station that visitors were never supposed to see. The first restricted area was a command center, much larger than the one they had glimpsed before. Dozens of humans worked at computer stations, monitoring space around Earth and beyond. Contact with Deep Space Station 7 confirmed, reported a man at one of the stations. All patrol ships are maintaining their positions, said a woman at another station. The Mars defense grid is fully operational, reported a third person. HFY listened carefully as they learned the truth about human space presence. They had not just a few research stations. They had a network of bases throughout their solar system and beyond. Commander Steve Walsh stood at the center of the command center, directing operations. Any sign that the aliens are becoming suspicious? He asked. Negative, sir, replied a young woman named Claire Adams. Our monitoring shows they believe our cover story. Good. Admiral Parker wants to make sure we're ready if this goes wrong. All ships are standing by, sir. If the aliens show any hostile intent, we can respond immediately. Vex High felt a chill. The humans had an entire fleet of ships ready to fight. They were not the helpless species they pretended to be. Moving deeper into the restricted area, Vex High found a room filled with weapons and armor. Human soldiers trained with equipment that looked far more advanced than anything the Zephyrians had seen. Remember, an instructor told a group of soldiers, if the aliens discover the truth, we may need to act quickly. Practice your zero gravity. Combat drills. The soldiers moved through training exercises that showed they were experienced fighters. They had been preparing for the possibility of conflict with the Zephyrians, but Vex High also noticed something else. The weapons were all defensive in nature. The humans had not built weapons for attacking alien worlds. They had built weapons for protecting their own people. The next room contained maps and charts showing human territory. It was much larger than the Zephyrians had been told. Humans had colonies on dozens of worlds, research stations in multiple star systems, and trade routes that spanned light years. This is incredible, Vex High breathed. They have been hiding an entire civilization. A woman named Beth Morgan worked at a computer station, analyzing alien ship designs. She had detailed information about Zephyrian technology and had been studying ways to defend against it. If they attack, Beth said to her colleague, we need to know their weaknesses. Do you think they will attack? Asked the colleague. I don't know, but we can't take the risk. Too many species have tried to hurt us before. Vex High began to understand the human perspective. They had been attacked by aliens before. They had learned not to trust easily. They hid their strength not because they wanted to deceive, but because they wanted to survive. The final restricted area contained something that made Vex High's hearts race. It was a room full of alien artifacts and technology. But not Zephyrian. Technology. Technology from other species. Krell battle armor, read one label. Vorthan energy weapons, read another. Remnants of the Scar invasion fleet, read a third. The humans had fought at least 3 different alien species. They had won each time and kept trophies from their victories. But what struck Vex High most was how the artifacts were displayed. They were not shown as proud conquests. They were shown as reminders of the cost of war. A plaque in the center of the room read, remember the price of trusting too quickly. Remember the cost of being unprepared. Remember those we lost. Vex High realized that the humans were not proud of their wars. They were haunted by them. They had hidden their strength not from arrogance, but from fear. As Vex High made their way back to the main areas of the station, they felt confused and conflicted. The humans had lied about many things, but they had lied to protect themselves and their families. They had not lied about wanting peace. Everything Vex High had seen suggested that humans truly wanted to avoid another war. They had just learned to be very careful about how they approached new alien species. That evening, Vex High sat in their quarters and thought about everything they had learned. The humans were not the simple species they pretended to be, but they were also not the dangerous deceivers they appeared to be. They were a species that had learned hard lessons about the universe. They had discovered that not all aliens were friendly. They had paid a terrible price for their innocence. Now, they were trying to balance their desire for peace with their need for security. They wanted to join the galactic community, but they also wanted to protect themselves from another betrayal. Vex High began to write in their private journal. Humans are indeed hiding something. They are hiding their pain, their fear, and their hard-earned wisdom. They are hiding the scars of battles they never wanted to fight, but they are also hiding their hope. Despite everything they have suffered, they still reach out to new species. They still believe in the possibility of peace. The question is, what should I do with this knowledge? As Vex High prepared for sleep, they knew that their next decision would affect not just themselves, but the future of human-Zephyrian relations. Truth was more complex than anyone had imagined.